Camille. Thank you so much for joining the forum.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the invitation.
Before we head into what Camilla is doing in her company as well, let me tell you a little bit of what we're going to be learning right now. It is the industry updates and marine sustainability. In the session, you'll learn how to stay ahead of the curve with our comprehensive update on marine sustainability in the yachting industry. This is a session where we will dive into the latest advancements, regulations, and innovations driving sustainability practices within the marine sector. Joining me right now is Camille Lopez. She is the president and founder of HYPLUG. Camille is very young. I'm not going to reveal her age because I want you to focus on everything that she has achieved. Is a determined and versatile professional with a passion for water sports and activities, graduating with a master's degree in international management from the International University of Monaco. She worked for years in the automotive industry, covering areas such as sales, marketing, and distribution. Her skills include strategy, supply chain management, and innovation entrepreneurship. An experienced navigator and keen writer, she's also involved in karting and motorsports. And I have to say that bio may seem long, but it does not cover everything else she has achieved, because if you go to her website, the company has racked up tons of achievements, certifications, and awards, but I'll let Camille bring that up. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and what are you guys doing?
Yes, sure. Thank you for this quite strong introduction. I will try my best after this. Now, without kidding, basically, HYPLUG have been a new project in my professional journey after this automotive parts. And basically, the aim was to think about setting up a new company by 2021. Am I focusing on what is existing currently on the markets, or am I looking further for the future technologies? And then I took the second option. So then keeping all the love for IC engines and transferring as well to like fuel cells technologies, as you have heard probably on the markets, and then going deeper for hydrogen topics, biofuels, biomethanol. So HYPLUG is a consultancy currently specialized on those energies and working only for ports with bunkerings or for shipyards for empowering topics such as engines and generators.
And there's so many questions I have, of course, but let me start with, how do emerging technologies such as advancement in propulsion systems or energy efficient materials contribute to reducing the environmental impact of yachts?
So sticking to our sector, basically when we think about yacht pollution, often we're thinking about when we move the yacht. Basically, it's burning fuel, so it's rejecting CO2, NOx, and then we pollute this way. But being honest, it's not the only pollution. And even for many yachts and super yachts, they are polluting more when they're anchoring or at the ports not connected, not plugged, than when they're moving the boats. Some of them, they have a reputation about 80% hotel loads and 20% are propulsion engine. So talking about pollution, basically each time guests or turning on the lights inside the boats, and then they need, of course, electricity, so power. If the boat is not plugged, then they are using generators. So taking the challenge from the beginning, any energy consumption on board, if not plugged, is coming from generators. And of course, to move the boats, even, for example, on hybrid system, some can be the batteries can be recharged by the main engine. So when you use the batteries, if it have been recharged by the main engine, okay, you don't burn anything, but you have done it earlier. Mm-hmm. So it's always a question of where do we estimate the start of pollution? And at HYPLUG, we are looking at the entire value chain. So taking it from, can we maybe reduce the electricity consumption? Then we will need less loads on the generators, then we are burning less fuel. That's the first mechanism, essential ones. And from these statements, we can replace, of course, the type of fuels we are burning. So the easiest advanced technologies currently is about keeping the engines we know, so generators and engine we know, the internal combustion engine, ICE, and only switching the fuel inside. Basically using, for example, HVO. Maybe some people have heard about it since the last 2 years. There were some conferences about it. It's like iron-treated vegetable oils. So it's coming from natural resource. And then there is this treatment to make sure the engine can understand it's a fuel and not and oil anymore, and then burn it and use it to generate the electricity needed or the rotative movement needed, depending on what you're asking for. So basically, you keep the engine and you switch the fuel, and you have different type of fuel. Don't want to give headache today, but just keep in mind, for example, BTL or GTL. And then again, the most used currently is HVO in yachting and super yachting industry. The second option, which is the most expensive and most complex ones, is about changing those kind of engines for something else. And that's where you start to dive into this massive ocean of hybridization, for example. So then we can speak about, let's have some batteries with electric engines, but have a fuel cell with hydrogen, for example, to recharge the batteries, as an example. And with this setup, so electric engine, batteries, fuel cell, you can run only on fuel cell, or you can run only on batteries, for example, or you can run on both. Mm-hmm. And again, depending on the energy needed by the boat, you can decide how you set up the system to say, okay, if I'm using more hydrogen, for example, directly, then I will reduce my pollution rather than filling the batteries to empty it back again. You can use straight away the H2. If you have less transformation of energy on the chain, of course, you save energy. So all those advanced technologies is all about keeping in mind how can I reduce the energy needs first, and then answering this need, how can we have the shortest value chain and supply chain? Then we can do something, absolutely, like, if I can say engineering speaking, amazing, with like many systems connected together. But I just want to make this small highlight of it's not always the best answer to just basically pollute less. So here are the main topics. And then there is methanol coming on the markets. Methanol explained in a very simple way. Everyone have heard about hydrogen and gas hydrogen. It's very hard to store for volume equation and compression issues. So what engineers thought about is that how can we have hydrogen inside the fuel cell, for example, or inside the engine, but stored in a simple way. And one of the answers is about methanol, because inside methanol, you have 3 atoms of hydrogen. So you can have methanol on board, no pressure, ambient temperature, and then you extract the H2 from the methanol and you use it in the fuel cell or in the engine, basically. So even for the storage, you can store in one way, then extract another energy, and in the end, for example, have a third one, such as electricity, and then you propulse the boat with your electric engine, as an example. That is all basically of advanced technologies.
Wow. Okay, these are for advanced technologies in the industry. Is that exactly what HYPLUG does?
Yeah, that's our daily job, basically. So we are studying for customers the most suitable solution, again, for empowering, so what I was just talking about, but as well for the bunkering, because you have movable permanence, you have different storage quantity, and all the regulation around that, which is a tiny headache as well, in addition, but we need it to make a project. So yeah, that's exactly what we're working on.
So I have to say that was very technical, at least for me. But you were saying that the core clients that you're talking about are the ports, right?
Yeah, for the bunkering, we are working with ports. And then for all the empowering topic, it's related to shipyards.
How can crew help with these decisions? Can they?
Yeah, they definitely can, because once the boat is launched, it's not anymore about consultancy company, shipyards, anything else. The only people on board the boats sailing with, they are the crew. So the first thing and statements is about understanding, knowing, getting curious of what are those energies coming. Mm-hmm. Not asking them, of course, to be engineer, but I will say the first step is about understanding what we are talking about, if I might say we for the moment, mm-hmm. to make sure first, if there is a project which is a bit tricky, they are not getting on board on the yachts, which is not, for example, something like absolutely safe, as like a first project. And as well in the management of the boats, some people, actually, they're rather keeping like a geo-conventional boat. They don't want to switch for like methanol one, for example. But once you start to speak with them, you understand they just didn't get the technical data of methanol. So they have an idea of what is it. They get a bit scared about it. But once they get knowledge, they're like, okay, in the end of the day, of course, it's not something you're going to drink, of course. But it's manageable. And if you don't do something silly, nothing will happen. I mean, the boat won't explode by themselves. So I would say that the first thing is about knowledge for them. And as they can get this knowledge and be confident with this changement, because of course, everything new, the way you bunker is different, just the name of the fuel, the prices are different, the taxation is different. So once you get, more confident with, then regarding owners, for example, or regarding guests on board, you can have a positive attitude with people and then kind of helping the industry from your onboard position to make this change. Because even if you have the best engineer, shipyards, everything we want, if at the sea doesn't work for some reason, it will be much harder to make a change in the industry. So for me, we definitely need in the loop many people, but as well, of course, crew and all the crew, from chief engineer to chief stew, of course, everyone on the boat.
You were saying that there will be changes, of course, in processes that directly affect the crew. Can we say, would I hesitate because I have more now to do, more processes? Or for me, it's like after I understand, it's just more of a changing how I operate and then I can easily make the change. Or if I was, in other words, I'm crew and I'm like, this is definitely what we want to do. Is the infrastructure in place for me to be able to actually go ahead and make this change? Because you were talking about that many of your customers were, the bunkering, the ports. Will they be able to actually support me if I make these changes?
Yeah. So for the first part of the equation, depending on the energy and the boat design, you can have some differences in the daily work, but it will be more for the technical crew. So like engineer and captain, once the bunkering are coming, because once the boat is full, there isn't, any very special behavior to have. And even for all the interior stuff, it's not really highly concerned, except some specific boats who have safety systems basically crossing the entire yacht and going from the bottom all the way up. It's just safety pipelines. So in this type of case, yes, you can maybe have different procedures in case of emergency on the boat rather than what you're used to have. So then you need to get, how can I say that? To get informed of those new procedures, to make sure you have the right behaviors. Regarding the bunkering sides, most of the new energies currently, they are bunkered as when you're ordering a tube trailer or geo for a big quantity or several tube trailers. Mm-hmm. So logistics speaking for ports, there is the regulation equation, which is beforehand. That's the type of case we're working on, for example, currently with Monaco ports, and we've done it for Saint-Tropez a year and a half ago, working with them to just make the search in advance of if you get a yacht, super yachts coming to bunker with methanol, for example, how does it work? What is different from GO? And is there that many differences, for example, between GO and methanol, technically speaking, when you bunker? So I would say there is a need from the crew, and when I'm saying the crew, I even include the captain inside, to ask beforehand, before the need of the bunkering, the ports, well, okay, we are aiming to bunker with this energy.
Yeah.
Is it okay for you? You cannot expect a reaction as GO, being honest for now. But if you want to, it's manageable. You just need to, for example, take care of it 3 months in advance. Then you make sure you can get the energy, and then you can get the port acceptance. I don't want to say approval because it's not about, they don't have to give any certificate, but if they are scared of and they don't get enough time to okay, we understood what it is, it's fine, it's going to be okay, then they can say, no, we don't want. That's where with HYPLUG, we're helping as much as possible with the industry, working with the ports to say, okay, guys, there are some topics you need to be very strict on. There are some others, it's just human steers. It's not about technique or safety. So have a look at the regulation. We are explaining to them, and then it's getting easier after because they're Okay, we thought it was more complex, but depending of topics is not that complex. So
you've been you've been mentioning regulation a couple of times. So maybe can you explain to us what kind of regulations do you see that maybe need to be changed, or again, maybe even what crew can do on your behalf? Because I do see in this conversation as the crew being your advocates to help this move forward and continue to in this path.
Yeah. Mostly for the bunkering side, because the building process, crew is not really involved, as when the boat is at the sea, everything have been certified. So, I mean, don't want to say they are absolutely out of the process totally, but usually it's with classification society, with like naval architects and all the yacht management company and the shipyards. So speaking more about the bunkering side, something basic, but if we take hydrogen, because it's like the famous energy nowadays, everyone is speaking about hydrogen and so on. So let's take this one as
obviously I speak about hydrogen all day long, so I'm sort of tired of it now.
Like everyone heard about it, and once you start to say, okay, but do you know there are different forms to store it? No, I didn't know. Okay, it's fine. So let's take it from there. Something very basic, very simple. With hydrogen, you can use it in the gas form, or you can use it in the liquid form. Basically, liquid is cryogenic. It's minus 252 degrees. So at those low temperatures, I believe everyone get it, you have like more constraints to make sure your store in the pipeline is keeping the temperature than in the boat and so on. In the gas form, it can be compressed with different pressures. So transportation on roads, it's 750. It can go up to 1,000 for like more stationary use, but maritime is only 350. So first thing to keep in mind, if you're a crew and you're like, oh, maybe I get on board on gas hydrogen boat, but I'm scared about it. First, keep in mind, the maritime pressure is much lower than the road pressure. So people knows how to deal with higher ones. In maritime, it's cooler. We have lower pressure for now. And then once we made this difference, basically when you want to make the bunkering, you have different ways with transport. So let's now stick to the gas form only. With the gas form, you can store, if I can say, in bottles, say it simply. And you can store in a big tube trailer. The difference is, for the same quantity, you have one package, or you have several next to each other, which means in case of explosion, let's take the big case everyone's speaking about with hydrogen again, you can have one of the 10, for example, exploding, or you can have one big only. You got it. If it's the one big exploding, you have a bigger issue than one of the small, where you can stop the system for each other. So as a
safety lines that you were talking about.
Sorry?
Is that the safety lines that you were talking about before? No.
The safety lines?
Yeah.
You mean, yeah, like that's one of the safety rules, for example. So if you're in like 10 bottles or one bottle with the same quantity, you have different rules. That's why it's important for crew to know. In the first scenario where you have the 10 bottles, officially in France, for example, you don't have a distance, safety distance. So if you want to make the bunkering next to like a cigarette, you can. You know, I'm taking extreme examples, but just to illustrate how regulation is it right now. In the other hand, you have 50 meters distance. So if the crew doesn't know about it, they can come close to the second scenario thinking, oh, well, yeah, I've heard it. There isn't distance. It's okay. And then you have massive issue there. So I'm taking a very big example where, again, as HYPLUG, we're working on those topics and working with clients to implement distances in any case to make sure there isn't drama happening. But regulation only can say those kind of crazy differences of 0 distance one case, 50 meters other case. That's where crew, if they get a bit of knowledge and a bit educated about those topics, they can be like, okay, well, I know there are like minimum distance to be logic to respect, but in some scenarios, for these hydrogen boats, it can be very wide distance. And just Basically, when you make the gas hydrogen bunkering, you're prohibited to have your phone. Like, I know for geo officially, you should not have it, but we understood each other. But for H2, it's really, really big topic because it's a gas and it's under pressure. So those kind of small behaviors, just like getting out of the boat, be like, okay, I'm just going at the quay, I have something to shop. Well, no. With hydrogen bunkering, you stay where you are, your phone is out of the zone, you wait until the bunkering is ended, and after you do what you want. That's in those kind of behaviors where I'm really seeing the importance of crew being involved when there are conferences, when there are talk, when there are discussion about the project, even with shipyards preparing the bunkering. That's where I'm seeing the importance for them to just be aware, because once you know, nothing is like crazy. I've attended bunkering. I'm still alive, 2 hands, 2 legs. I'm okay. But someone needs to tell you.
Yeah, you're gonna tell me. I'm kind of afraid. I would definitely be with the checklist. And I was like, do I need a special vest? I'm moving 50 meters, 5 meters away from this. I don't know what this. I just noticed, oh my God, the time has really got fast. I don't know if you want to lead into maybe, are there resources? Like, I find this really interesting. I would love to know more. Are there resources, maybe a blog on your website, something that we can learn? Or do you want to do a case study? I think we don't have time for a case study, but
yeah, it's a bit tight now. But regarding resources, so on our website directly, we have a small page about environment, but which is not related to like specific regulation and stuff. So it's not that details. For any people interested, please just feel free to reach out to me. We have the Saint-Tropez Ports study. They accepted to release almost 10 pages publicly with data, mixing documents and case study in 2 minutes. So Saint-Tropez study, basically they said which shipyards are working on which energies for the next 5 years to understand what is going to arrive in the ports. So in this public part of the report, you can get some insight about, for example, what is the representation of hydrogen for shipyards. And it has been delivered end of 2022, so it's quite a fresh study. So in this document, you can get some more detailed information that you won't find, on Google. So if you're interested, just please feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn or email, whatever. And then what we decide to do for the knowledge part, we create a training which is certified by the state in France, which is named like Calliope for any French company based. So we have this 1-day training, exactly as the discussion today, explaining what is H2, what is methanol, what's regulation, how do you burn H2 in the boat, basically all those kind of technical data, but made in the most simple way during 1 day to spread this knowledge with people. You have one concrete case as well to make sure you understood, all the contents, you have quizzes. So we create this training to try to help on the education side of the industry.
I was with you until you said quizzes, and I was like, I spent the whole day and I just didn't pass or something. I'm going to have to be laser focused on your session. This was really fascinating. I'm definitely going to be reaching out. I want to learn more. I didn't even know that's something that you and the marine industry were working on. That's quite fascinating. We got a minute. How can people reach you? I know you already set your website, Instagram.
LinkedIn. Yeah, we have Instagram accounts, the LinkedIn account of the company or mine directly, the websites, and then we are on the yachting pages as well. We have an account on Super Times. So if you just Google the company, normally you might find the network. Just typing HYPLUG, even without the dash, you can find any link normally from the company.
That's really easy then. Also, the ones tuning in, she will be in Cannes and the Monaco Yacht Show. So if you are around and also part of YPY, you'll have easier access to her.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the company is based in Monaco and in Côte d'Azur. So of course, I will be exhibitor at the Monaco Yacht Show. Again, anyone in the sustainability hub, of course. So anyone interested, please feel free to pass by. For YPY Monaco chapter, a small big up maybe, but we organize an event during the Kayaking Festival. So any YPY members are absolutely welcome. And the Monaco Yacht Show breakfast, the famous YPY Monaco events at only Yacht.
You want to say hi to me too?
So feel free to pass by anyway.
Thank you so much for your time. I told you we can get you out of here before your next client meeting. Yeah, I'll be reaching out. This was fascinating. I actually probably have to rewatch the session to really understand everything that you just unloaded on us. Thank you again.